29 historical buildings, 14 acres. This is gonna be fun. Here at the Gunnison Pioneer Museum. Adventurers, this is about to be absolutely epic. This property is huge and expansive, and I'm gonna show you part of it, but you need to stop off and see the rest. Because with that many buildings, oh my goodness, we are in store for a really good treat. Now there is a lot of information inside and there's an upstairs section. I'm going to leave all of that for you. They have a ladies fashion collection as well as a point collection. However, what I saw pulling up next to this, I'll just show you. Let me show you around the property and we'll touch on some of the things that I find interesting. Like this. This is not a small endeavor at all. This is a huge piece of the museum right here. Each of the things that we're going to see around here have all been collected from around the region and brought to us so we can see them. And it's just incredible. The attention to detail in each of these and preserving them and making them where we can learn a little bit more is absolutely incredible. So places like this museum are so important. Remember, we learn from the past to make a better tomorrow. And that includes respecting the things that we once used because we might not use them anymore. Oh, this is a part of the Rio Grande Railroad, and we have rafted in areas that the Rio Grande once ran. This is incredible. Now, I was told that in each one of these stops, there's some unique things. This one definitely looks like it. Oh, well, not only is there a collection of items that were used, but also a recreation of the stockyards, which relied heavily on the railroad here. And on the opposite end, there is all the context that you could ever desire when it comes to the Rio Grande Railroad and how it impacted the community of Gunnison. Now this is just one of many displays that are on property, and each one of those again have been brought here to serve a specific purpose of telling the story of this community and how it has thrived over the years. Some of these historic buildings have private collections in them, including one that I was told I definitely have to stop by. There's a historic home here. There are several outbuildings. And along the way, as we explore, we're going to be able to see the history of Gunnison unfold through its pioneer settling route. Now, this is not something that you're only going to give yourself 30 minutes for. This is an extensive collection, and each one of these properties, and each one of these buildings, and each one of these setups is unique and different and something that is worth the time. So with that said, we're going to do this as quickly as possible to share with you so you can see why you need to take your time whenever you come here. Now, it was $15 to enter as an adult. They do have children's pricing, however, and they do have some discounts. So with that said, it's a little windy. I'm going to show you around and then we'll see some more of these private collections. Now, as we walk into the Tin Cup building, I didn't know exactly what to expect with each of these, but this is our first look, and each building is themed to a specific item. For example, here we have televisions and radios throughout time. It's absolutely epic to see all of the different kinds and variations. However, they also have a few other interesting things here on the other side of this building. An extensive collection of beautiful and unique dishes. So many different kinds from different years. Some of these date to 1974, 1971, 1987. In this case, we have some of the more fine china items. And so you can just see a variation of things that would have been used throughout time, and many of them are marked with these tiny little labels like this. Now, this is definitely a different kind of museum. When you come here, each of the buildings looks kind of like a little storage building. But when you come inside, each collection tells you the story of the people of Gunnison area. And I think that that's what's really great. But then there are a few others that have more intricate, unique, specified collections to the actual building that they are. So with that said, going back outside to the next collection. I really appreciate that all of these have little seals so the bugs don't get in here. That's nice. And all the stairs are very clearly marked. This makes it a lot more user-friendly also because some of the areas have ramps to get into, so it's more accessible to everyone. Ooh, this one's interesting. This has a lot of like mining things on the outside and railroad, and this is called Vulcan. So inside we go. Oh, wow. Model trains. Every one of these is going to be just a little bit of a surprise to us because I did not intentionally take the book. I wanted to be surprised, and boy am I. There's a sign here that says, warning, contagious, model railroad disease, adult males very susceptible. And throughout this room you can see a variety of different styles and brands and sizes. There are railroad themed items. This is really something to see, that's for sure. You might be asking yourself, why would I not get the book? Because I just wanted to come here and explore and see what there was. And that way you guys can see what it's like if you don't get the book. Now, the book is very helpful. It tells you a little bit more about the different collections and things like that. However, just seeing it for what it is can also be quite impressive, as you can see. So we have the Gunnison Valley Daughters of the American Revolution, or DAR, building. And inside, oh, this is neat. It's an entire DAR building, and it has all of the history of their chapter here in Gunnison. This is unique because it has all of the different family histories of those who have been a part, as well as some attached literature. So if you are researching, this could be very helpful. They have this quilt here that has been signed by many of the DAR members. They also have a 46-star flag and also a 48-star flag. It's a Spirit of 76 flag, of course. And I think this is just neat because you get to see the various points during your visit here, where people can come here and use this as a resource or come here to learn from various things throughout the other displays. So this is really neat. They do have a guest book also, so if you use any of the literature to find any information, they ask you to sign in. So this is a good stop. A small building with lots of information. Ooh, this is neat. This was the Ohio City, Colorado post office with the original boxes. Some of the ledgers and things that they would have used in that original post office, including the old sorting boxes. I do not know the context of this, but there is a building right beside it, and this particular building right here may have some answers. Oh, indeed it does. So basically what we're looking at here at the museum is each one of those little buildings that we've been seeing is a museum within itself. And of course being dedicated to the armed forces. So around this, you'll find local people from the Gunnison area who have served, as well as some very interesting pieces of history. The case, for example, shows the Japanese World War II era flag, a Japanese World War II battle flag, and a Japanese World War II era flag. These walls represent many of the armed forces from this area, and each and every one of them has a tag to tell you which uniform that this was and when it was discontinued. This room that just continues onward, but some of them have these unique little pieces like this. This one was a United States Air Force Academy cadet uniform that was worn by Lieutenant Colonel Timothy J. Matson, and he was a cadet in 1987. And bringing the history back with each and every one of these items, it tells you about these items. And so there are a ton of things in each one of these buildings. There's also stories on the wall about soldiers who have served from this region, and also an entire room of folded flags. Of course, each of these flags is significant because it shares the story of yet another person from the Gunnison area. And as we look through them, their names are on here, as well as a dedication to each and every one of them. And I think that that's just incredible. So this room definitely makes the military vehicle outside make sense, but more so, it kind of brings home all of the stories of those who have been in this community so bravely, who have fought for our country. And I think that along with all of the news, again reminds us of times that have happened in our past that might not have always been the best, but also those courageous men and women who have served and who have protected our rights here in the United States, who many times did so at a very grave cost. I think that this particular building so far has had the most information in it. And again, this building by itself could take a considerable amount of time to go through. So give yourself some time here. Give yourself at least a couple of hours. Now moving into the school, which was established in 1919. Just in time because it's starting to rain. Oh no! It was donated to the Pioneer Museum in 2003. Immediately we were introduced to beef products, things that are made from beef. Now, 58% of the animal can be used as meat, but the remaining pieces could be used for any of these things. And some of these things are strange. For example, did you know that liver extract for anemia can be derived from beef? Also, several other medications. But then we get over here and you see toys, plastic, all can come from the production of beef. Just past that, we move into the old schoolhouse, school classroom, and you can see some of the original heaters that might have been used during the earliest days of this school. You can find some of the elementary school readers, as well as a banner from Gunnison here. And remember, each of these buildings is something that reflects things that would have been here at the time, which means that if there were multiple schools, there may be multiple school items within this particular school. However, I was told there's another one, so we're gonna have to find that one also. We have traditional classroom desks throughout the years, various styles and sizes, and then you get down to even little extra chairs over here. This is the Carly Watson book collection, and this was the collection of a local rancher's wife. She loved to sew and read, and she collected books over 68 years in the area. Now, the Doyleville School was actually something that served the community of Doyleville, Colorado for almost 80 years before it was moved here. The students were local ranchers' kiddos, and so they needed a place to go. And so this particular schoolhouse became their home away from home for learning all of their reading, writing, and arithmetic. And along the way, a lot of people say that this had such a profound impact that they wanted to preserve it and bring it here. And so that's why it's here today. I have some photos of some of the students that would have attended this school at one point. Really unique look at how this building had to be moved and offloaded here at the location. In this area, there is a very large collection of encyclopedias, dictionaries, readers from the past, and things that might have been used at the school at one point. It is impressive. I always love to see pieces of history that are preserved. And again, this building is filled with information. I know that we're doing a shorter look at most of these buildings because as you can see, they are extensive. There's so much in each one. Literally each one is a museum in itself. And so if you were to come here, you could easily take your time and say, oh, I feel fulfilled by seeing any one of these buildings. However, there's so many of them, which is incredible. Of course, no school could be without the most dangerous piece of playground equipment ever. That's also the most fun. I don't know how many times that I personally have had both a wonderful and a traumatic time on one of those. But you know, that's when playthings were really playthings. Now they're plastic and much more safe. Going into the marble building, and inside the marble building, we have a collection. Ooh, we have a collection. Life magazine throughout the years, old dolls, as well as little golden books, toddler fashion throughout time, some more unique dolls. In front of me, I see a very large building, which I believe inside is a car collection, but we're about to go find out. And when I mean large, it's like huge. I am very excited to see what is inside this mammoth building right here. It just looks fun. And outside of it, of course, they have all these farm implements. So even on the outside of this building, you're still seeing a version of transportation. For example, we have a braking plow right here. It tells you how it's used, and it is attached to the item itself. So again, lots of cool things. Aerating disc, horse-drawn, and it was implement that was used to open up the soil so that nutrients could enter the ground. Hollowed out log was actually a water trough that was used for livestock in the Gunnison area. Ooh, I'm gonna go in that building, but I just had squirrel syndrome. There's something else. Here is the home of a car collection. An impressive car collection, to say the least. More modern looking cars, tiny cars, to more classic cars and everything in between. Case upon case of cars. But that wasn't it. It's actually in front of this building. Look guys, look, it's a teepee. Okay, here we are, antique car time, antique car time. What's inside? Oh, wow. Now, obviously, for a car enthusiast, you're gonna spend some time here. Probably a lot of time. Start off with a non-car. This was designed by Randy Miller, the son of Ann and CJ Miller. Finished this build in 2001, and then it was passed on to his sons. And look at the detail of this thing. I think you can see that's just the beginning. There's so many cars in here. There's more. The difference is these apparently are under a different set of rules. So yeah, let's see what we have in here. Oh, wow. Guys, if you like cars, you have to come here. It just keeps going and going and going. Each one has its own sign that tells you what year it is. Sometimes they have a few extra facts on there. These things are impeccably done. I have stories of some of the people on the walls here. A Model T, wow. This thing is in incredible condition. They have definitely worked hard to get these into impeccable condition, even down to the wooden spokes. And the wood in the bed, leather looks fantastic. Oh my goodness, these are so nice. Cutlass, oh my goodness. We're just going and going. Oh, this is awesome. I'm not really a car person, and I am just like, oh my goodness, these are like car show quality. This is great. As we get to the back, a fire truck and an old school horse-drawn hearse back here. Oh, this is interesting. This looks very similar to the one that's called the Lincoln model, which is how they paraded Abraham Lincoln whenever he passed away. But it is also joined by a funeral car, and this was donated by the Miller family funeral coach. And this was a Henny Packard from 1939. Now, at the beginning of this room, I mentioned there's a person who was mentioned on the wall, Andy Mallett. A lot of these cars are attributed to Mr. Mallett. Wow, impressive work. Come back through, we see the other side, which has one of the fire trucks from 1923 that served the Gunnison area, as well as a picture of the Gunnison Fire Department from 1937. History all throughout. Again, so much information. Come check this out. I did save this one for last though. 1912 Ford Model T. And this is iconic. Look at all of this woodwork on this one. It's all been preserved and redone from the spokes down to the dashboard and everything in between. This one is my favorite. I mentioned there were a lot of different kinds of collections here. For example, this one, which is one of their newer collections. Side we go. And oh my gosh, this is a huge collection. I don't think I've ever seen that much Coors Light. Ever. It was like every single piece of memorabilia. Ever. And they're still working on this one. There's more. The one for the Masonic Lodge. Wow, this reminds me so much of when my grandfather was a Mason. And my grandfather at one point was a worthy patron, and my grandmother was a worthy matron. And this is kind of what it looked like in the Masonic Hall. So that's really neat. Also, this is a newer building as well. You can still smell the fresh stain that they've used, but you can see all of these pieces. This is just such a neat museum. It's very different than the other museums that I've been to because it gives you, again, a glimpse into each individual collection in each individual building. That said, outside we go because they're going to be closing soon and we still got a lot of buildings. There's no way we're getting through all of these today. In we go. Ooh, this is interesting. Like in this first section, we have all the different ways that you can wash your clothes as well as some of the early garments. Oh wow, as we step inside, this is a complete house filled with so many neat things. The kitchen has some of the cookbooks from the past, a lot of different kitchen items. Oh, this is just really a glimpse into the past right here. Also, a little sheet here that tells you more about all the different items that are in this cabinet. You can see some of the ladies and children's fashions in this particular house. Fashion goes all the way up to the top and also flanks itself with some of these amazing quilts. So each building that we go into, we're learning a few new things. We're getting to see pieces of the past and how that they've changed and how they've become the things of today. That's really neat. I think next door is a blacksmith shop though. Am I right? Am I right? This is actually a coal shed from the railroad. And you can see inside just where they would have had some of the coal. And then outside are some of the implements they would have used with the coal. And then we make it to the Moore building. Inside we go to find out more about Moore. Wow. Well into the back, we have a series of old sewing machines, even a spinning wheel to kind of show us throughout time how sewing has changed into this more modern anchor sewing machine. What I also find fascinating is even though they have all of these sewing machines, they also have different kinds of things on the back wall. So like this is a series from Disney. You have some of the fine lace work here. You have miscellaneous items that were from one of the families here, including a lemon juicer, a toy, an olive oil pitcher, huge collection of irons. These were known as sad irons or flat irons. Of course, a few more sewing machines. So again, very interesting stuff, but the most interesting piece I found here was right by the door. Story of when this was added to the museum itself. And I think that this story is one that you should definitely read. Again, it shows them transporting the building in and then how it came to be a part of the Pioneer Museum. Many of these buildings served a different purpose before coming here, and now they house private collections. But at the same time, the buildings themselves also have a cool story. And each one of the buildings that I've been in that has been a historic building, you can find the story of that building somewhere inside. So does your Where's Waldo eye work? If it does, you're gonna have some great information about the buildings themselves. Oh my goodness, this is a big one right here. This is a big one with a huge stone trough outside. And inside, oh wow, this is another 2-story building where you can come and see everything from sleds and early carriages to buckboards, grinding stones, and then something a bit more nefarious, headstones. Yeah, that's a little creepy. Yes, these were actual headstones. They removed them from the Gunnison Cemetery in 1998 and donated them to the Pioneer Museum rather than destroying them. Don't worry, the original stones were replaced. Now we've made it to the Miller Building, and on the outside of the Miller Building, it looks like we have some different drilling items here. This was actually a part of the Thompson Creek Metals Company project, so they have sponsored this particular building, and so that might explain some of the items we see outside. It makes so much more sense. This is mining in Gunnison County. This photo right here was members of the Colorado Metal Mining Association during their annual convention in 1923. And this photo was actually taken near the Akron Tunnel at White Pine, Colorado in the early 1900s. This building, there are implements for mining. There are so many gems and fossils in here. This is a fun one if you are a rock hound. You know, each one of these buildings has a very specific audience of people who would love to come here just for that. And I think that's another reason why this place is incredible. But wow, there's a lot of stuff in this tiny little building. For example, right here, some of these items. This is all from the Pioneer Mining Company. These were items that were used in the field. I have a book that lists all of the different cabinets with all of the different minerals and gems in here. And then there's also a story right here that tells a little bit about the company and shows some of the mines. This right here is like the Pitkin Mill. I think most people are familiar with mining in Colorado. However, Colorado is one of the most well-known ghost town states of all because so many mines popped up. And so coming to a place and being able to see a company that is giving back to their current community and telling the stories of the past, that's a win in my book. This is also neat. There are 2 different carriages here and several historic photos. And as you get a chance to look at these, you get a chance to see how transportation has changed from the cars that we saw in the other display to something like this. And then even some fun little things like these. And some really neat prints again. These are amazing. I really enjoy seeing all of the historic faces and photos. They just tell a story of times past. You can look into these and see how the world was different. It continues on not only with these sleds here, but also with the photographs all across these walls. For example, tells the story of the Blue Mesa Reservoir and the Morrow Point Dam. And there's a 30-mile stretch of the Gunnison River, which comes into a hydroelectric plant. This thing right here. Whenever they dammed this, it created the largest body of water in Colorado. So you never know what you're gonna find. If you come into a room and you're like, hey, I'm not as interested in sleds. Look at the walls. You might be interested in what's on the walls. Of course, outdoors, they have more equipment for you to look at and learn about. And as you see this equipment, it'll teach you some things that you might not know about farming, mining, and industry. With that said, I have less than 20 minutes left here, so there is one building that I have to go in. Much like the Eastern Star, we also have the Oddfellows. They have a building here that shows you what their setup might look like, as well as some of their traditional styles for their particular ceremonies. My Aunt Louise and my Uncle Herbert, they were in this particular group. And so I got to go to one of their official meetings also. And when I was only in like 6th or 7th grade, I got to read a poem at one of their official events. So I had to come and check it out. But there's one more building as we head toward the exit. It is beautiful. We walk into this one. This one was the one that I was suggested that I had to come in, and I can see why. Wow. From the outside, this building is beautiful. From the inside, it is spectacular. The windows here make it so vibrant. And inside, you find all sorts of really cool things from yet another school in the area. From language practice for primary grades to 2 teachers from the early 1900s that worked in the Gunnison schools. Staring out into this classroom, you can imagine all of the students here and what they might have learned. You can imagine heating this room with that heater in the back and sitting at this very desk. You can also look at the quotes of a 1923 teaching contract. And some of them are kind of funny, like not getting married or not keeping company with men at all. My favorite one was not to loiter in an ice cream parlor. I thought that was super, super funny. So you can see not only the items that were used and also the desks and the furnishings, but also the more interesting and somewhat trivial items that you might not think about. But this front room, it's here that you can see a smaller table, lots of historic photos, and also pieces where you can learn about history that was at that moment happening before their very eyes. You can see this wonderful trophy shelf filled with all the accomplishments of the students. Again, you can take a glimpse through time and see some of the classmates that once attended school at this very location. When I say location, I mean this building was also relocated, but inside this very building, it's fabulous. And even up to the very ceiling, the detail work in here is insane. Obviously, there are a lot of things at this museum that I could not show you today because I did not plan well and give myself enough time. But even with that, wow, we were able to see some awesome stuff. So I encourage you guys to come out and check this out and see each one of these buildings. Because again, each one is its own independent museum, worth the look for sure. Remember guys, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time. I'm gonna get to looking at these last few exhibits and I'll see you next time. Bye. This place was epic.